Marc Maron has recently released a special called Panicked on HBO. I've not seen it, but I'm sure it's great. And he's been on the podcast circuit criticizing right-wing comedians such as Joe Rogan, Bill Maher, Dave Chappelle, Theo Von, these podcast bros that have really enabled fascism. So let's get into the interview because he really breaks it down quite nicely.
So fucked. I will say, like, the hope, right, too, is like, this is hacky shit, right? A lot of this like anti-woke comedy is like hacky shit. And the way you beat that, you can scold people. I'm not saying you're doing it, but people on social media can try to scold their way to the other side of it. But the answer is to just be fucking funny. And the answer is to have a bit about Theo Von that people really like and sort of clicks, turns something on in their brain.
It's subjective.
That makes it silly to them.
Sure. Right. But it's not going to make it silly to the guys that are brain fucked in that direction. It's not going to make it silly to the believers. And the problem with like comedians as news influencers is that now anything any comic says is a representation of their personal ideology. So the ability for them to be objective about humor is gone. And they are subjective, which most humor is, to a specific ideological bent. And sure, you can make it as funny as you want. There's plenty of beautifully funny people doing amazing comedy all the time, but they're in the shadow of this momentum of the tribalized comedy of Rogan. And again, those documentaries, which I highly recommend, from Elephant Graveyard, Rogan has positioned himself as the arbiter of what comedy is. And the way I framed it in my conversation with Howie was like, how long can you kind of claim the victim mantle?
Right.
It's like, my question is, it's like, you guys won. Woke is dead. What do you got to keep beating these people up for? Some of them are losing their rights. Some of them are being, literally killed. Some of them are being deported. And these are all the big funnies for you guys who claim to be victims of this horrible policy. So then why not stop now?
Well, but also part of it is, but it
was never about free speech anyway. They always say this, like, trigonometry, ex-comedians, free speech warriors. They don't give a shit about free speech. They never do. It's just a means to spread their fascist propaganda. And the problem with comedy now, and it's been killed by the right wing, is that irony's dead. Like, irony, people know when people are being sarcastic. You can make jokes about anybody, but they have to be jokes. Irony is a very powerful tool. But they just hate. A lot of right-wing comedy is just hating on trans people, marginalized people, leftists, brown people, gay people, people that don't fit a certain mold. It's not funny. Like Marc Maron says, it's just hacky. It's not funny. Like Dave Chappelle just mocking trans people. He's a great comedian. He's a master of language and delivery, but it's not funny.
Also, there's this sort of, well, we're just comedians, we're just telling jokes here. And then it's like, well, hold on a second. You can't.
They're not.
You can't have the president on in the run up to an election and give that person a forum, Trump, and not push back. You can't get behind him. And then when you don't like the consequences, say like, well, I don't like any of this immigration stuff, but I'm just a comedian. I just had him on. He was a guest.
Yeah, but still, like, I can't forgive it. I can't forgive it.
Don't think you should.
And it's like, in the sense that, like, well, you should have done your fucking homework, before you come out and say, this is the guy, to your army of kind of minions who look to you for intellectual fortitude and the proper diet and, what is real and what isn't real. So in a sense, it's like they're going to backpedal, and they're going to backpedal in relation to what's kind of like moving through MAGA in general. And I don't know that it matters. I mean, I
think it does matter. Oh, I think it does matter.
No, I mean, I don't know that it matters. Oh, if MAGA buckles, and they have to accommodate them?
I think we have to be practical. And I can't go back in time and make people not endorse Trump, but people with big platforms realizing that they were, look, is a decadent and depraved era in American politics and American society. And part of that is a glibness with very serious things. You have Zelensky in the Oval. He's getting questions about putting on a suit. His country is being murdered by Vladimir Putin. He's getting jokey questions. Donald Trump is showing him his fucking hat collection. This is a depraved and decadent era. Also, and as part of that decadence, there are people being glib about life and death decisions, including endorsing a monster because it's good for the gram. And that happened. how do we help? Now that there's a good side to that, which is there's a shallowness to that support and that embrace, which means, yes, we can say that was stupid, I don't forgive you, fine. But we got to get those people to realize, we got to make ourselves feel open to them, because those people with those platforms are maybe gettable, as are the kind of soft Trump voters that maybe got on board because all their favorite hosts liked him.
I'll agree with you with that.
Okay.
But I think you're taking out of the picture, they're afraid. They're in, man.
Yeah.
And they're in over their head. And, there's real consequences when you push back against your authoritarian overlords. And who the hell knows what they are? Because once you get above Russ Vought, I mean, you've got the tech oligarchs, all right? So they're the real ones, whoever's, pawned out, Vance is a stooge for those guys, for Elon and Thiel and those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So once you get above Project 2025 and you get above Trump, then you've got these guys who really seek to destroy the fabric of democratic society. Okay, so if you're on the payroll of that shit, and and you want to soften up, there's a lot at stake. So it's not just sort of, well, we got to say the right thing to these people and change their minds, because you don't think Scott Rubio is shitting his pants every fucking day? I mean, you don't think like any judge that rules against him is getting like hundreds and hundreds of death threats? I mean, this is straight up, terrorizing shit.
See, that is a great point, actually, because people assume like, oh, people are rational, like this guy's a liberal here, the Pod Save America guy. We bring them over with rational, like, look at this GDP, look at this data. No, it's the media environment, which is fueled by money. Joe Rogan is in it for the money. Theo Von, the money. Dave Chappelle, Ricky Gervais, all these people see the anti-woke bandwagon, they jump on it, it makes a lot of money. So this is a backlash towards wokeism, anti-SJW. It makes a lot of money. And what do we have on the left? We don't have the money, but we do have the means to shame these people for their views. Elon Musk, for example, is deeply unpopular. We need to give them the same treatment that Elon Musk got. His blatant fascism he's made a joke, he's pathetic, he's a weak man, he's a disgusting pervert. That's how they need to be treated. And it's not nice, it's not pretty, but this is how you deal with fascists. I'm sorry, you can't convince these people. So you need to speak their own language. All they know is weakness and power. So you need to make these people look weak. Donald Trump is an inherently weak figure. We need to make him look weak.
So, I know we were heading towards hope somehow, but...
And we don't need to. Let's turn around.
No, but I think that in terms of voters and whatnot, if they are still capable of empathy, underneath this mania of grievance validation, then in so much to say as if they're still human, that maybe something will speak to them.
Well, I think that's where there is genuine hope. Trump has many powers, talents. One of them is he is very good at making what's the worst thing about you the truest thing about you. He's very good at that. He's very good at kind of reaching into somebody and saying, this thing, this weakness you have, I'm going to make that more true, whether it's animus towards immigrants or embracing their ambition over their politics if it's a politician. But one reason I think Trump was able to get back is because there was a big hole, and everybody listening will be annoyed at my saying it, but whatever. But the bully pulpit, Joe Biden, he left it open. And we didn't understand how big of a price we were paying for not having a vocal, aggressive, relentless advocate for democracy, for just empathy, which is something Joe Biden, I think, is very good at, but had lost his ability to communicate well. And if we can start getting leaders and influencers, it matters now, it's the world we live in, to kind of reflect those values more, suddenly a lot of people that were open to Trump might remember some good parts of themselves. Because I think people are complicated. And you're right, in every person there's a bull.
Yes, we have that. Zoran Mamdani, but he's not being backed by the Democrats. And I'm sure the Pod Save America are quite in with the DNC and the Democrats. I'm not sure if they support him. They've, I think, been a little bit radicalized by the fact that Joe Biden, all the scandal behind the scenes of how his health was deteriorating, and that's a whole can of worms itself. But you have someone, Zoran Mamdani, who is both nice and quite firm and quite strong and strong rhetorically, all really Trump has is he can speak, he's charismatic, and he's funny. That's it. You need someone who's charismatic and funny in the same way Nigel Farage is, in the same way Boris Johnson was, in the same way some of the strongest leaders, Kennedy, like even Tony Blair was pretty good rhetorically. This is what the left really lacks. But we have it in Zoran Mamdani. Will they accept him? Well, that remains to be seen.
But in every person, there's always an empathetic part of them as well. Donald
Yeah, I
Trump
think
does
so.
does a crackdown on immigration, terrible crackdown. And what happens for the support for immigration, just itself as a
Plummets.
good, rises.
No, anti-immigration.
Anti-immigration sentiment plummets.
Yeah,
Support for immigration itself, irrespective of the policy, rises to 80%, highest it's been in decades. There's something that you can turn on in people.
Yes, you have to defend these values. Joe Biden didn't. Immigration, up until like COVID, was relatively popular. If you don't defend ideas like democracy, freedom of movement, liberty, free speech, you have to defend these things. You can't just take them for granted. You really can't, especially with demagogues like Farage, Trump, right-wingers who don't care about freedom of speech. We have to be more vocal. And again, they will always have the advantage because they have the money. But that doesn't mean we don't try.
That's what leadership is, and we need
Yeah,
that. It's been absent. I think it's possible.
No, I agree with that. I mean, of course, and like historically, it happens.
Yeah.
You can push back, and you can change people's minds if the sadness, the weight of it. But like, what happens to like I've become sort of obsessed with this idea of these angry white dudes that you were talking about that were untethered, and many of them the whole sort of angle of Democrats used to be like, how they're voting against their self-interest. That used to be the big thing.
Yeah.
How does that happen? Because it feels good to be angry. And
Well, you can't tell people what their interests are, is one thing.
I guess, but I'm just economic.
Yeah.
Right. So, but now it's like I don't want to get more grim. I'll stick with yes, maybe people. Well, you get all these angry dudes. I mean, and then you offer them. I mean, South Park covered it. The second one, offer them a job in ICE.
Yeah.
As non-officer guys with guns for big money, and that again, then you get into that philosophy thing where they kill part of themselves to serve this because of their self-interest. And I guess that ties into me with what you're saying about influencers and about that. If you can get them out from under their self-interest, which sometimes is just posturing for a particular cause that determines their brand sort of appeal, but is rooted in almost nothing. I mean, how do you make
Momentum becomes momentum almost.
Well, it just
Hard to
becomes
turn
like
back,
you're using it as a marker to sort of determine your brand. Everyone is stuck in honoring the context of the social media platform, right? So arguably, if you really want to do it, there's no free speech. Because you're trying to get onto this platform and get traction with what you have to say in the bits and pieces that you can do it and make it appealing to enough people to get you some sort of recognition so you can get your grift going or move money into the right direction.
And subscribe to our YouTube.
But
There's one of those fake laughs, I think.
But also there's a difference between this hyper reality and just sort of like, going swimming. So I just think that it's complicated without a unified message. Entering the political part of this last special, days before, I changed the tone of how I was going to do it. Because like I said, with that, alpha doggy or whatever thing, that like with the swagger, which is either genuine or just a means for me to confidently, a trick to deliver it. I decided in this one, just go under it, almost be passive about it. Like, hey, everything's great. Everything, and then move from that tone, because I believed in the spirit of what you're doing here, that if I do it like that, people who aren't necessarily like-minded will listen.
Yeah.
And I did some of these shows. I had a guy come up to me in like Skokie or somewhere, and I did all that stuff. And he came up to me and said, I think I'm probably the only Trump supporter in here. And I said, did I get it right? And he said, yeah, man, he's crazy. Like, what do you even do with that?
I do think that's, well, I think it gets at something important, which
There's nothing you can do. It's fascism. It's purely irrational. It's incoherent. It contradicts itself. And it inherently is self-explosive. And that's the hope we do have, because it's pretty depressing, the situation. They are anti-reality. They're anti-empiricist. They're anti-intellectual. They don't care about evidence. They don't care about really making lives better. They just want to break stuff. They want to own the libs. They want to, like, hate life. They're a death cult. That's it. And it's fun. It's fun. Like, capitalism has killed any meaning in life. People don't have friends. They don't have community. They don't have hope for the future. So a lot of people are just like, fuck it. Fuck it. Really, they are. That is the times we live in now. Nihilistic, no hope for the future. Donald Trump somehow is going to fix things. It's so irrational.
is, I feel like a lot of liberals, and it gets to the kind of buzzkill thing, a lot of liberals have kind of had convinced themselves that if only we can reach people with the truth. They just don't have the facts. And once they have the facts, we got to get them the facts. We got to make sure the New York Times headlines are accurate, that they capture things correctly. Because if people had the facts, they really knew who Trump was, then they wouldn't do it. But no.
They know who Trump is. They know exactly who he is. They know he's a pedophile. They know he's a rapist, a fraud, a liar, a criminal. But they like it. They like it.
No, a lot of people got behind Trump knowing who he was. And that's a harder, deeper, sadder problem. And that, I think that is where we're at now. I think the first term was, oh, we just have to reach people to make them understand. Now it's, wait. They did understand. They did this anyway. This is a bigger problem than we realized.
You have to, like you said, have a leader that...
But it is all media environment. It really is. The more people see this on TikTok, they see Trump do the dance, they see him call someone an idiot, some ad hominem attack, which he always does. Like, people like that. They say, oh, he's funny. And then they see Kamala Harris say, are you going to change anything Biden did? And she's like, no. And they go, okay, we'll go with the funny guy. It really is that simple. Like, if you want to break it down.
Believes in liberal democracy.
Yeah.
And can speak to why it's good. You know, even with, creating policy that may, undermine businesses, maybe, creating policy for the benefit of all. You have to somehow re-engage people with the idea that they have a civic responsibility for those who don't have.
And it has to deliver. It has to deliver for people. Because I do think
that's right.
That people have come to believe that it just doesn't matter, that Democrats, they overpromise and they underdeliver if they deliver at all. And really, the federal government just doesn't affect me. And
that's a wealth problem.
It's a wealth problem. I think it's also this is a kind of cultural problem right now, which is the assumption that as things that how things were is how they will be, that there are certain things you can count on, right? Like you can just, the Trump is crazy, but Social Security is going to function. And Trump is crazy, but like he's not going to ruin the whole global economy with it by announcing tariffs for penguins. Like there's that I think a lot of people learned from the first term that things don't really get that bad.
Yeah, but that was before they had 2025 in place.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Of course.
And they, all they had was Bannon and, his mystical beliefs, churning out executive orders. But now you have guys that really know all the fucking weak spots of the government who are churning out executive orders.
And they had 4 years to prepare.
Totally.
And second-term presidents always know the job better than first-term presidents. They rarely get 4 years to be outside so that the policy people, the wonks, can get their plan together. But also, that's what's so different.
Sure. But also, how do you get the young people that identify with liberal democratic or leftist politics, to focus on getting involved in being involved in the government?
And well, I think this is where it's like, what brings all these disparate groups together? What makes people see themselves as part of one movement? Leadership, and we didn't have it. And Democrats didn't have enough trust with non-Democrats to believe the threats, to believe what we were saying about what Trump posed. And Democrats didn't have enough purchase with less engaged lefties to earn their vote and to believe that they could be trusted either to kind of get people excited. And Kamala did a lot to try to fix the damage that Biden had left, but there wasn't enough time. We'll be right back with more of my conversation.
Okay, if you believe that. No, the problem is that he didn't want to talk about wealth and inequality. They don't want to back Mamdani. They don't want to really change the status quo. Like Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, like these are the guys. It's pretty depressing, the situation in the DNC, the Democrats. And if Gavin Newsom runs, he might win. If Trump, I mean, obviously Trump is probably going to be pretty unpopular by then, but the cycle's going to continue. And we're just going to be in the same situation we are, and fascism will be a threat. So, on that positive note, hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next video.